starting with what is analytical paragraph, please understand first of all what it is and how the question will come, how you're going to present your answer. Analytical paragraph writing is a form of a descriptive writing which is written on the basis Okay, it is a form of a descriptive writing which is written on the basis of a given chart, graph, data, outline, clues, table, etc. When writing an analytical paragraph, one should remember to describe the facts in the best possible manner and to cover the information provided. So whatever information, whatever data is provided to you, that you have to cover everything, that all the details of the data should be given in your writing skill also. It has to be written in about 100 to 120 words. As I told you, it's a 5 marker. So 100 to 120 words, I think they're sufficient for a 5 marker. See, for any writing skill, the bottom line remains the same. Plus 20 minus 20 is acceptable. 120 ka you can see up to 130, 140 plus. Please do not go. Similarly, 120 maximum limit is, so you can come down till 100, but please do not make it 80 and do not cross 140, right? So the paragraph must use clear and crisp language along with providing complete details of the chart given in the question, right? So all these things, I think they're very clear to you people. Now I'm sharing a question on analytical paragraph with you. Before that, just have a quick reading of features of an analytical paragraph writing. Aditya, please read them fast, and then we'll be jumping to the question.
It describes a given chart, table, data, graph, cues, etc. It should be brief and comprehensive, include complete information at the same time. It should state facts that are provided by the chart. It is necessary to make use of simple and accurate language. It should mention figures and quantities appropriately. It is appropriate to use the same tense throughout the analytical paragraph. No personal observation or response should be provided. It would be preferable to use the passive form of the verb.
Yes, right. So the information given you should have to give the complete details. It should mention the figures and the quantities appropriately. The contrast has to be is very necessary. The comparison you should give it, though it should not be a detailed one. It should be a brief and comprehensive one. Now, what is the format of an analytical paragraph writing? I'm coming to it. An analytical paragraph shall be divided into 3 parts. The first is the introductory part. Second is the body of the paragraph or the main content which we say. And the third one is the conclusion. Now, introduction. One by one, I'll be covering the 3 parts. See, the introduction is simply in a line or two, which tells what all the figure which is given to you, the input which is given to you, whether it's an outline, a clue, a bar chart, a bar graph, or a pie chart, anything it could be. So what it reveals, what is told in that. So the introduction explains in 1 or 2 lines the subject of the graph. The subject of the graph is told in a line or 2. Now the second is the body of the paragraph. Now in detail, body simply tells in detail what the graph is about, using relevant figures, explain trends, make comparisons and contrast. Please note this one. This is very important. This is something whereby you will be using comparison and contrasting words to show that difference, right? And divide into sub-paras if required. If required, though I don't think there is any need because it's a 5 marker. So simply the paragraph writing will be in 3 stanzas: introduction, body, and conclusion. Clear? Now, body, I think I'm clear with it. You have to explain in detail what the paragraph is about, using relevant figures, explaining trends, making comparisons and contrasts, and divide into sub-paras if required. Conclusion. Now, the third stanza is of conclusion, whereby you have to conclude the para, giving the overall view or a summary of the graph. We can say the concluding lines must be something like, for example, if I was talking about the increase in the population from 2000 to 2020, or from 10 to 220. So according to the latest census, we can say the comparison is made. So you can give a small overview, what were the reasons that why the population increased or why it decreased. Just in a line or 2, you can say, you can conclude it by saying the population has increased this much times, and perhaps these are the reasons behind it. Just in a line or 2, you can conclude that. Fine. Now, the format of the analytical para, I believe it's clear to everybody. Now we are going to do in detail the introduction, the body, and the conclusion. Aaron, please read the introductory part. Aditya, is my voice audible to you, dear?
Yes, ma'am. The introduction is the first paragraph that should describe in brief what the graph is about. It should be like an opening paragraph that introduces the reader to the context of the chart given. When writing the introductory paragraph, you need not go into details. You just need to mention what is clearly evident from the chart or the graph given in the question. It is best to write the introduction in in one or two lines.
Right. So I think it's very clear. We can proceed further. The body of the paragraph.
The part of the analytical paragraph should contain details of the graph chart given in the question. It should contain all the important information. It is extremely important to choose the significant details that should be included in the paragraph. The body can be broken into two or three subparagraphs depending on the information extracted from the graph. Breaking the body into subparagraphs make it easy for the reader to understand. Organizing information.
Just a second, Aditya, take a pause here. Breaking the body into subgraphs, sub-paragraphs make it easy for the reader to understand. That is true, but in a 5 marker, I don't think we actually need to do so. In case it's too vivid description is going on for a particular topic which is given there, बहुत detailing में हो रहा है, वहाँ पर हम sub-paras बनाएंगे. Otherwise, there is no need for making sub-paras because we are already making 3 paras. That is for introduction, then is your body, and third is your conclusion. चलिए. Start with organizing information.
You should look for the large differences that are very prominent. You can mention the aspect which is the smallest or the largest in the data given. Any aspects that are similar should be mentioned next. You should further mention about the aspect that has remained unchanged or constant throughout. Comparing information. If the chart mentions two different parties, for example, men and women, refer to both of them in the analytical paragraph. If there is any contrast or comparison that could be drawn, you must present it effectively. If the chart is about a particular time period or highlights trend of several years, mention each year in a concise manner. If any comparison or contrast can be done for two or more years, you should write about it too.
Now,
Mention.
this stanza, this part is just a second, please. This part is very important. The information has to be compared. When a data is given in front of you, obviously it is not simply related to 1 year. This happened, this happened, and this happened. Some sort of comparison or contrast is very clearly visible. So to highlight that contrast, to bring about that contrast in your writing is very important. Thereby, you will be using comparative words. For example, whereas this was the population number of people in the year 2000, and number has increased up to how many times. So we can see a high rise, we can see a jump. So these kind of words should be used to highlight the contrast and comparison. I will be discussing about the kind of the phrases or the words which can be used in comparison. Please continue further.
Mentioning quantities. When including numbers and figures, their accuracy must be ensured. There are numbers of ways that can be used to describe quantities, for example, percentage, fraction, ratios, etc. Connecting sentences. If different information or ideas are there, you should use connectors or linking phrases to link them logically. The sentences of the paragraph should be sequential and connected rationally.
Now we come to the conclusion. The last para should summarize the idea mentioned and the information in general. It should be concluding in nature and act as the closing statement. One should keep in mind that one must not include any personal opinions, conclusions, or observations. You cannot say, according to me, I think, or you need not give any kind of information or any kind of your opinions or views. What information is given to you, it's a general report in the form of a general information only. You have to write the analytical paragraph, what information is provided. Nothing apart from that should be added or subtracted. right? So you need to dispose of the information to write a good analytical paragraph. The key is to choose wisely the important information, organize it well, and state correct facts and summarize it properly. The proper organization of the facts by you comparing, good comparing and contrasting, that is more important, and that makes the analytical paragraph really effective. Now, this is some parts, some things which we can use. I'm just going through it. Like the introduction, we say the introductory stanza where we are just going to introduce on what topic we are giving the paragraph on, where we can start by writing the chart gives, above describes, the table suggests, the graph shows, it is a description of, the graph reveals, so the data given provides information about, the pie chart illustrates. So these kind of phrases we can use in the beginning of the introductory stanza. For describing trends, use phrases and words like a pattern of growth, rapidly doubled. So doubled, you know, the pattern, the same, skyrocketed. Skyrocketed is a word we say where we find a high rise of in something. Striking increase, peaked, soaring rates, declined, plummeted, level drop, stagnated, fluctuate, starting to rise, starting to fall, drop down slightly, etc. So these are for the describing trends. Now for describing quantities, we can tell up to the ratio can be given, the percentage can be given, an average, twice, thrice, highest, lowest, big downfall, a major rise, approximately, roughly, such kind of words can be used. So for establishing a relationship or a contrast, these words are again important. You can say similarly, in contrast with, in comparison with, in reference to, opposite case, contrary to, opposed to, striking difference, noticeable difference. So all these phrases you can use in establishing a relationship or a contrast. जहाँ पे हम comparative words दे रहे हैं, comparison show करेंगे, where we'll be using such words. For the conclusion and the other connecting phrases, use overall. When we are ending a paragraph, obviously you use such kind of words. Right now, we can say concluding the para, or overall, subsequently, gradually, nutshell, in a nutshell. The gist is, so for the chart given, in short, striking changes, including, therefore. So that is, these are the words which we use for concluding the analytical paragraph. Aditya, we can stop here.